Oh, it's been a while, but we're back. Good evening and welcome to the fastest half hour in the cryptid world, This Week in Bigfoot, the news show that scours the internet and the Bigfoot community each and every week to bring you the people, the places, and the stories making headlines around the Bigfoot world. Then we take it and we wrap it up in a nice, neat 30-minute package for you. If it has to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and the Wildman, trust me, you know what, we've got you covered. Here's what's on tap for this week's show. The lovely and talented Melissa Adair stops by to talk women and Bigfoot research. The latest UAP military video gets leaked, and you'll have to see it to believe it, because man, it's a strange one. And Snowwalker Prime takes on the Miami aliens in the year's first 2 minutes with. These stories and more Bigfoot news than anywhere else, I personally guarantee it. So you better settle in, buckle up, and pay attention, because we're back, baby. You ready? Let's go.
911, what are you reporting?
He's walking upright like a man.
With someone or something crawling around out here.
But he went back up the mountain.
Get somebody out there.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know. He's all black and big. He is big.
The field of Bigfoot research has long been dominated by men, but the lack of female participation is proving to be a detriment to the cause. And while the search for the elusive creature is capturing the imagination of many, the underrepresentation of women in this field has resulted in a lack of balance and perspective. I've been saying that for years now. We need more women in Bigfoot research. We kick off this week taking a look at how women bring a unique and valuable perspective to the study of Bigfoot, offering a level-headed approach and often bringing balance, sometimes lacking in male-dominated research circles. Their ability to approach the subject with open-mindedness and attention to detail has the potential to greatly benefit the field. I recently sat down with the lovely and fearless Melissa Adair to get her thoughts on the subject. Melissa, I know I told you this before we started recording, is I kind of look at you as a brand ambassador for women in Bigfoot research, because I think you've been here in the community for a while. You're very strong-willed, and you do a lot of badass shit. I watched your videos and I see your stuff when you're keeping out in the woods. But my question to you is, what unique perspectives and skills do you believe women like yourself and others bring to the Bigfoot research? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, and first, thank you for calling me an ambassador. That was like high praise. Thank you. No one's ever called me an ambassador for Bigfoot before. I feel special. So I think women as a group in the woods probably are a little less threatening than men, because, we do tend to be a little smaller in stature, and we don't generally go around hunting a lot. I guess, men versus women hunting in the woods. I'm sure there's a lot more men than women do. I haven't seen the actual statistics, but I'm sure that is a male-dominated sport. And so, that right off, we're not threatening because we're not walking into the woods with those guns. And so the other thing is, we probably just smell better. And we're often with children, and so that makes us less threatening if we just happen to be in the woods for whatever reason. So we do have a little bit more of a more nurturing and compassionate side by nature. That's just how women are wired. So that might make us a little more approachable. And then of course, maybe because women are quite chatty with one another, it might give the appearance that we are somewhat distracted. It might make it easier to get close to us, to observe us. I'm just throwing that out there. We tend to be really social when we're together. So not that we're not aware of our surroundings, but, maybe it might give that appearance. And so that might make us a little more approachable. And then especially unique abilities that we have. I think women tend to be a little more empathic than men. And so it's just, again, how we're wired, because we are nurturers and a lot of us have children, and there's that kind of psychic connection we have to our children. And so it makes us a little more empathic. So we are a little more in tune, I think, when the spider senses are going off, when there's something, either a danger or just if all of a sudden we're not the biggest person on the food chain, we might be a little more inclined to listen to that inner voice, I think.
when you go to these conferences, because I've been to a bunch of conferences, and we're going to be going to the OBC and hopefully doing some stuff there this year. When you speak and you're at a conference and you listen to people's presentations, do you feel like other researchers, and I don't know if this is true, but do you feel like you've ever encountered any challenges or kind of maybe almost like not a prejudice, but kind of it's a woman, these guys kind of look down at you?
I have not had the experience of having anybody to make me feel lesser than in the few times. I don't do it a whole lot, but the few times that I have been asked to speak at different conferences or whatever, I have only been supported by my peers and encouraged. And so I would say that maybe when I very first got into it, there was a lot of hate when I very first got into it. But at that point, I wasn't really speaking. I think I did one conference. And when I did that conference, again, when I was at the conference, I felt really supported because I think everybody there wanted to be there and had a really, they had an interest in the subject, and they didn't care who was talking as long as they were bringing good information or whatever. So I would say that maybe once upon a time that might have been the norm, but I have not had that experience. I've been lucky or the tides are changing.
Now, like I said in the beginning of the segment, I've always considered you a brand ambassador for Bigfoot when it comes to women, because you're very strong and you're present. You have a good presence and a strongness about you, and I think it's great. How can you or other Bigfoot researchers help involve and recruit younger generations, younger women, and maybe regular women to come and get interested in the Bigfoot field?
Easy. Just invite them to come along. I have a couple of girlfriends that I've invited to do some Bigfooting with me, or just what I call initiating them into Bigfoot research, where I'll take them off-road and just kind of in the dark, and we'll sit in the truck and just listen a little bit, so nothing too scary out there, because some people genuinely, that's just not their thing. That's not fun for them. It's too scary for them. I feel like, honestly, whenever we've had a mix of men and women in an expedition, it seems like if we're going to have some activity, it's usually because the women are there. So it's really interesting. And so I just feel like just invite, just let people know that adventures and hobbies aren't just for men. If you're older and your kids are grown and you need a hobby, adventures are not just for men. They're for women too. And anything boys can do, girls can do too. And so just go out and try something new. You might decide that you really, really like it, and then you'll get hooked and you'll get the bug, and you'll go out every chance you get.
Now, the involvement of women in Bigfoot research is essential to the advancement of the field. I'd like to thank Mel for stopping by and remind you to stay tuned, as we will have more from this talented researcher coming up in a future episode.
All right, happy 2024. It's great to be back. Let's get started. So, over the break, I examined a much darker explanation for potential cryptid origins, when a friend proposed that there could be a potential link between cryptids and biolabs. Check out this map here. It shows the numbers of recorded, the keyword being recorded, animal tests conducted annually in each U.S. state. Now, I know it's an upsetting reality, especially for all the animal lovers out there, but these are also just the numbers that we know of. The real figures are reportedly much higher, with some estimates putting them in the millions. This next graphic shows what types of animals are used in lab experiments. And, setting our emotions aside, let's look at some of the names on here. We have primates, canines, felines, bats, birds. Now, if you think you see where I'm kind of going with this, I'm not saying there's some Resident Evil type shit going on here, and that these labs are deliberately manufacturing cryptids. What I am pondering, though, is could some of these escaped or released animal specimens, ideally ones with severe disfigurements or extreme mutations, be getting mistaken for some cryptids? Now, I'm sure this whole premise probably stirs up recollections of stories like the Montauk Monster, things of that nature, but in actuality, there are many well-documented instances of lab animals escaping. And if you think about it, all this kind of, sort of, potentially might make sense. Many animals on the aforementioned graphic I showed you earlier, for example, are known to be cunning escape artists. Moreover, when you think about the horrific treatments and experiments these animals have been through and been exposed to in those labs, they're probably going to associate humans with fear and pain. So if outside of their confines, they would likely flee instantly upon seeing a person because of that. Maybe that's why so many witnesses only report getting a brief glimpse of, whatever so-called cryptids they allegedly saw. Now, while thought-provoking, let's keep in mind that these talking points are ultimately pure speculation, but I charted some data that I think could shed a lot of light on this premise we're examining. So check out this map from Reddit. It lists the ranges of different cryptids in each US state. Now, although the Redditor didn't share exactly how they gathered this data, I think this map should still suffice, so it's going to play an important role in our analysis here. So basically what I did was I took each state's number of, different number of cryptids, and I compared that metric with each state's number of annual recorded animal tests, that map we just saw a few seconds ago, along with 4 main types of facilities where animal testing likely occurs. We'll focus on the 13 states with 16 plus different cryptids. Moving forward, we'll refer to this particular group as our upper echelon group. Now, while this particular metric wasn't plotted on the chart I just showed you, right away I noticed a prevalence of high population states in this upper echelon group. 9 of these 13 states with 16 or more different types of cryptids have populations of more than 10 million people. All right, so the first category we'll look at is annual animal testing in each U.S. state. Our upper echelon group features 3 out of the only 5 U.S. states that recorded 50,000 or more animal tests each year, and 7 out of 13 that conduct 20,000 or more recorded animal tests. Moving on to level 3 or higher biosafety labs, which for context, these facilities handle highly contagious and transmissible pathogens. Now, out of the 13 states in our upper echelon group, they actually include 3 out of just 4 states that have more than 10 biosafety labs that are level 3 or higher, along with a plurality of 6 and 15 with more than 5 of these facilities. On to military bases and academic institutions. So the average number of military bases per US state is 15. Only 17 states, though, are at or above that threshold, 8 of which are in that upper echelon group with 16 plus different cryptids. 8 out of 10 states with the most academic institutions also fall in the 16 plus cryptid category. Moreover, the total number of academic campuses among this upper echelon group outnumber the total number of campuses in all 37 other states combined. And lastly, let's check out biotech firms. 5 out of 10 states with the most biotech firms in the US are in that upper echelon group, those 13 states with 16 or more different cryptids. That's another plurality. And like academic institutions, biotech firm totals for these 13 states are higher than the aggregate of all 37 other states. So here are some main takeaways. It seems states with more laboratories, more animal tests, and more people are reporting more different types of cryptids. However, despite identifying this potential correlation, when you look at the data, the way it's formatted and whatnot, it's very susceptible to cherry picking. So if we're going to do this objectively, that's something we have to acknowledge. Having said that, there are also some other notable rebuttals we have to look at. Many of these facilities, for example, are in developed populated areas, not the remote, secluded, rural areas where a lot of these cryptid sightings are occurring. And despite citing the potential escape scenarios from these labs, a lot of these facilities are highly secure, with many animal escapes happening while in transit, believe it or not. I'm sure some of you already noted, many cryptid reports also predate the construction or establishment of these facilities by decades, even centuries. And depending on how you're interpreting this analysis, this premise may or may not account for cryptids like our beloved Bigfoot. With that said, is it possible that alleged witnesses are mistaking escaped or released animal test subjects from labs for cryptids? Or are these the intended results of these experiments? Because let's be real, we don't know what's going on there, what they're trying to accomplish. If so, it unveils an unsettling explanation for at least some modern encounters, and if that's the case, perhaps it shows how it's us humans who in reality are the real monsters here.
A new study was just released and it reveals just how many people believe in cryptids, such as Bigfoot, Yeti, mermaids, and the Loch Ness Monster. And it's much more than you might expect. The study, titled Cryptid Communication, Media Messages and Public Beliefs About Cryptozoology, that's a mouthful, has been published in the International Journal of Communication. Researchers from the University of Delaware looked into whether exposure to different forms of media impacted people's beliefs. They asked a sample reflected of the United States population whether they strongly believed, disbelieved, or strongly disbelieved if each one of these were real. Bigfoot, not surprising, was the one that people believed in the most, with 12% saying they strongly believed in the creature's existence and 34% saying they believed. That's 46% of the sample population. Both the Loch Ness Monster and the Yeti came in second, and both had 41%. For Nessie, it was 10% strongly believed in the creature's existence, 31% believed. The Yeti had 12% and 29%. And, not surprising, mermaids, yes, mermaids, had the least number of believers. Although 11% were found to strongly believe in mermaids, believe it or not, just 22% believed, for a 33% total. Those people must be following Melba's DNA study. To be honest, all of these figures are quite closer than I originally would have guessed. I mean, think about it. That's a lot of people believing in these cryptids. Other aspects of the study found that watching TV generally, or science fiction specifically, did not make people more likely to believe in cryptids. However, viewing paranormal documentaries and reality TV did predict a higher belief in cryptids. Now, be sure to visit the community page on our YouTube channel, that's CARC Universal, and take the survey. We'll circle back around to this and let you know what all of you think about the belief in these cryptids.
Tonight's episode is sponsored by Larynx.
All right, folks, if you check your watches, we are officially halfway through episode 42, which could only mean one thing. If you follow the series, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the part of the show that we give to content creator Michael Merchant. You might know him as Snowwalker Prime. It's screen time to speak his mind and get what's ever bothering him off his chest, clear the air. This week, it's the 10-foot aliens and media blackout in Miami. Love him or hate him, here he is again. This is 2 Minutes With.
Echo Station 3K. Spotted Imperial Walker. Echo Station 3PA. We have spotted Imperial Walker.
Did you hear about the incident in Miami where 100 cop cars showed up? What are you watching, Starsky and Hutch? No, I'm serious. It was in Miami.
Why were there 100 cop cars?
It was an alien invasion.
Aliens?
All we ever talk about is Bigfoot. I know, but I'm mixing it up.
Well, I suppose we could be thankful for that.
So these 10 and 15 foot tall shadow aliens invaded a mall in Miami and caused hysteria.
I gotta admit, that's an awful lot of cop cars. I thought you were joshing.
No, it was every cop in Miami showed up.
Well, that seems appropriate for an alien invasion.
Yeah, but that's not what the cops called it.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, the cops said that it was just a few teenagers fighting in the mall with some sort of stick.
Some sort of stick? Sticks?
Yeah, sticks.
Sticks like this?
Well, I don't know if exactly they were like that, but they said they were some sort of stick.
Not gun?
No, some sort of stick. And then people said that the cops fired at the aliens, but the cops said that it was just the kids had a backpack full of fireworks.
Sticks and a backpack full of fireworks.
Yeah, that's what the cops said.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, we both agree. I wasn't sure, but yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that makes no sense at all. I mean, teenagers these days have guns. Who the hell's fighting with sticks?
Apparently, these teenagers at the mall.
I almost hate to say this, but this sounds like a cover-up.
It's a conspiracy by the shadow luminary government, the black ops, to keep us in the dark about the alien agenda.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
I gotta admit, this is very strange. So people said they shut down the airport and cut the power?
Yes, that's what the eyewitnesses have said.
Did the cops admit to cutting the power?
No, they said there weren't any aliens. It was just kids fighting with sticks. Had a backpack full of fireworks. And just to be on the safe side, they sent 100 cop cars to
quell the disturbance, which seems a tad excessive, and they didn't cut the power, and they didn't shut the airport down. Faceplant emoji. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? That was their Twitter response. This is like something out of a cartoon. I know, it's very bizarre. I don't think I've ever seen this many cop cars at a mass shooting. Yeah, it was all the cops in Miami. Come on, guys. Well, on this one, I have to say, I totally agree with you. I can't believe it. It's a fantastic, this is a pivotal day in our relationship. I tell you, we're just like this. As I said before, we're not like this. We're more like this, except I can't get my fingers far enough apart to represent what we are.
Wild Bigfoot by Larix, the official hat of This Week in Bigfoot. Sponsored by Larix.
Here's Mike Luci and this week's Bigfoot Rundown. The Bigfoot Rundown.
Alright, we're back for 2024 with a Bigfoot Rundown. We got a couple of weeks worth of content to get caught up on, so let's get started. So to kick things off, how many of you ever heard about the Eagle Pantis? Here's a picture. It's the first time I ever heard about this story. I found a recently published grunge.com article that laid out the entire sequence of events. It had previously been spotted lurking outside the town of Shirley, Massachusetts, before allegedly getting killed by a man named Captain Nathaniel Smith in the 1700s. Smith reportedly entered a local eatery called the Bull Run Restaurant, brandishing the creature's severed head, exclaiming he shot and killed it after it charged him. The Bull Run Restaurant claims this inexplicable oddity has been mounted on their wall for over 200 years and has yet to be debunked. Theories about what the Eagle Pantis could be include a bear or moose, like every other cryptid's been proposed, including Bigfoot, along with a hoax or botched taxidermy job. What do you think the Eagle Pantis is? Could it be a bear, a moose, Bigfoot, hoax, or a completely different creature? Let us know in the comments. Scientists believe they discovered the reason why Gigantopithecus blacki went extinct. A paper published in the scientific journal Nature explains why climate change likely caused the giant ape's mysterious demise. The 10-foot-tall ape species likely went extinct between 215 to 295,000 years ago, after failing to adapt dietarily and behaviorally in their changing habitat. What's strange is the species went extinct at a time when other large primates were adapting and thriving. Gigantopithecus blacki lived in the forests of South China and other parts of Southeast Asia. Climate-induced changes began in its habitat between 600 and 700,000 years ago, diminishing its primary food sources while reducing its mobility and foraging range. Some researchers believe Bigfoot could potentially have ancestral ties with Gigantopithecus, and if that's the case, then this information could be a huge puzzle piece to finding out what Bigfoot's evolutionary timeline, if it's real, could potentially look like. So this was another find in one of the Bigfoot Believers Facebook groups. Check out these photos. A Facebook user claimed these pictures were caught on their security camera in the town of Bend, Texas. Only one of these purported images has a timestamp, which reads a date and time of December 7th, 2023 at 6:43 p.m. These first two pictures could be from the same camera, that's what it looks like at least. And if so, the second picture here looks like it got zoomed and cropped. The third one, not gonna lie, I'm just featuring it because it was also included in the original Facebook post. The town of Bend is located in east central-ish Texas. I couldn't find any Bigfoot reports in the immediate area, but there are several about 40-50 miles east of Bend. Aside from the location and timestamp, we don't really have any other information to go off of behind these images' backstories, but we'll give you one more look at these images to see what you think. So, any idea what you think the security camera caught? As always, let us know in the comments. And maybe you've seen this picture making rounds recently, or maybe you've seen it in recent years, like me. Well, hate to break it to you, but it's BS. Sort of like the Western Mass photo I covered in episode 36, it seems like one or multiple Facebook users are posting it in different Bigfoot groups using the same word-for-word text. I personally remember seeing it in the past, and fortunately, someone already started raising awareness about this image's true nature. I've seen a few posts from this Facebook user explaining the photo's origins. Turns out the picture comes from a software called Sandbox 3. This expanded version of that earlier photo shows it on the Sandbox 3 page. For those wondering, Sandbox 3 is a supplement of the SCP Foundation, standing for Secure, Contain, Protect. It's a fictional organization that captures and studies paranormal anomalies. Sandbox 3 is a page for contributors to design and format proposed SCPs. So make sure to spread the word about this photo and make sure it gets no more traction than it's already accrued. And I'm pretty excited about this one. So this is a stabilized clip from the Craven footage taken back in 2013. Quick backstory, it was allegedly filmed by a family while out on a drive outside the town of Craven in southern Saskatchewan. They claimed to spot a large dark figure crossing the road. The driver allegedly stopped and was able to catch this compelling footage in time before the creature went out of sight. As we've noted before on the show, it's not uncommon for older photos and videos to periodically resurface and in many cases pick up viral-like momentum. This particular post already has dozens of shares on Facebook and seems to be giving many people their first glimpse of this compelling footage. And again, to reiterate, this is just a stabilized clip of the original footage. We'll include a link to the original video in this video's description. I personally think, I know we're supposed to be, objective and unbiased on the show, but I personally think this is one of the very few videos with the strongest odds of potentially being the real deal, but that's just me. Was this your first time seeing the Craven footage? As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
The Bigfoot Rundown. Just when you thought you've heard and seen everything and thought you've had enough of the current UFO UAP phenomena, I'm here to tell you that you haven't. Recently, a rather strange video taken over a US military base in Iraq has making the rounds on social media and news outlets around the world, shedding light on a brand new form of unidentified aerial phenomena. Check it out. The footage, released by filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, has sparked a wave of curiosity. Captured by forward-looking infrared imagery in 2018, the video shows an object that can only be described as a jellyfish due to its floating, dangling appendages and very, very strange profile. Now, what's important to note here is that this object was completely undetectable by standard military-grade night vision cameras, and even managed to elude being detected by most of the troops stationed at the base. And if you watch closely, you'll see the object appears to change colors as it regulates its temperature. Remember, this is infrared thermal footage. UFO journalist and researcher Nick Pope weighed in on the footage.
Jeremy Corbell does have a proven track record of bringing forward footage and still photographs that do turn out to be genuine. So I'm betting that this is going to be the real deal. But as I say, there are still pieces of the puzzle we don't have. And I think this is going to be a test. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was the director of the Pentagon's Arrow unit, stepped down at the end of last year. His deputy, Timothy Phillips, is in place. This is a big test for him. How's he going to respond to this? I think we want this. Congress wants information about this sort of thing, not from independent filmmakers, but from the Pentagon.
Now, the authenticity of this video is still under intense scrutiny, with the Pentagon neither confirming nor commenting on the matter as of late. As questions continue, the urgency for transparent and conclusive information from official sources rather than independent filmmakers like Jeremy Corbell becomes ever more apparent. Now, while this story doesn't directly deal with the subject of Bigfoot, I know I can already see the comments coming in. It does check all the boxes on the high strangeness front, reminding us to always keep an open mind about the mysteries of this planet and quite possibly others out there in the universe. As always, we will continue to monitor this story and keep you informed on any of the updates. It's time once again for Chuck Larson and this week's Top 5 Bigfoot Podcasts and Live Streams.
Evening, everybody. I hope everyone had a happy new year. It's Chuck Larson back at it again with my top 5 podcasts and live streams for the week of January 15th, 2024. Starting us off at number 5, it's the Dark Radio Network Project. Listen as host Michael Anthony speaks with Bigfoot researcher Mary Fabian.
Yeah, as to what purpose, for studying them, yeah. Why don't they, put out that information, leak it out like they're doing with the UFOs? For what reason? Is it because of their DNA? That they do have the Raphaim, the Nephilim DNA, that they can't let that information out? Or is it because that they have human DNA in them also?
Coming in at number 4, it's the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show, What Legends Are Made Of, The Journey of Tom Cantrell. This is a brand new podcast, so I wanted to show some support. Take a listen.
I have a rope, and what I did is I took flagging, and it's a 50-foot length of rope, and I tagged it every step that Patty made, because they had that information, and I stretched that out and have people try to walk it. It is so much fun to watch. Yeah, it is so much fun to watch. And invariably, when they try to do the look back, they fall over, fall out of line. I've never had anybody be able to do it in 20 years now.
At number 3, it's Sasquatch Experience, episode 91, The Big Distraction. Vance takes the lead and talks with the Fork Chop, Sean Forker, and crew about what he thinks the big distraction is in the Bigfoot world today.
It's also kind of, bolstered my skepticism, though, because I feel that once you've experienced this for yourself, there's this unconscious ability to kind of peer into the eyes of someone else and be able to gauge that bullshit barometer and be able to see who really experienced something and who's making it up. I don't know what it is. There's a connection. I could be insane. That's a possibility, but it's just different. But I struggled with that for a very long time. I almost left the field in general after my sighting because it was very impactful to me. And that impact was, how do I reconcile being able to have this experience and now being able to be objective anymore? So, Henry's point, he hit it right on the nose with my thoughts. It does make it a lot harder. And I think you have to be very careful because you want to really believe people after that. And it's not always a, comfortable position to be in. So,
at number 2, it's Squash D TV. This week, Steve and Chris talked to former law enforcement officer Dave Spinks about Bigfoot and his different experiences. Check this out.
Well, there's weird stuff. I've sent samples in and hair samples and different stuff and never came back, never got a phone call, no one answered the phone when I'd call. What's going on here? Why can't you just say, well, we don't know what it is, I've got voice analysis of various what I thought were Bigfoot hoops and yells and everything else. Came back as had them voice analyzed by voice experts, and came back as not any known creature in this world. So what is it? I don't know. You got me, man. So I know what I saw was real, and it was pissed, and it was tearing down the woods, and it made some horrible sounds. So,
and the number 1 podcast this week, it's Banal of America, The Revival, episode 10, Adam Davies. Since Adam never does podcasts, well, at least he's never done one of our podcasts, this is a pretty rare occurrence. So enjoy.
There's the Thule tribe, which is in central California, and they were great with me, but it took about a year to get permission to go to their special tribal area, which is high in the mountains. They're the ones with the Bigfoot cave painting thing, rock painting thing.
Yeah.
And I think I was the first person who wasn't from their tribe to go up to this area. I don't know if there anything else, but it's 3 hours up from the mountains.
Oh, wow.
In the mountains, they have their own little cabins, and my friend Craig and his wife, I went up there with them and a couple of other people, and this was a purported Bigfoot area for generations. So I was really privileged to get permission, and we stayed in these little cabins, and it kicked off at night. It went mad.
All right, as you know, folks, it pains me to say that all good things must come to an end, and episode 42 is now in the books. I'd like to thank you for watching and remind you to like and share everything we do here at the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. You got to tell your friends. And if you have any questions or comments, or maybe a story you'd like to see on the show, you can always drop us a line at thisweekinbigfootnewscast@gmail.com. So, until next week, for Mike Luci, Chuck Larson, and Snowwalker Prime, I'm Brendon Brown, reminding you that when it comes to getting your Bigfoot news, be informed, not biased. Take care. We'll see you next week.